Supercharged, a podcast focusing on renewable energy and the passion behind the movement. Supercharged is a thoughtful journey through renewable energy sustainability and an integrated lifestyle. Subscribe and listen each week as we chat with thought leaders, influencers, and those who simply choose to live a better way. And hopefully, along the way, you too will be inspired to live supercharged. This is Kevin Pruitt with another episode of Supercharged, the podcast. And I have a very special guest with me today, Amy Smith. Amy, thanks for joining us on Supercharged.
Thanks for having me, Kevin.
I am Amy and I have known each other probably for maybe a year and a half now. And I just, when we started doing this podcast, I kind of thought, who do I know in my network that I thought would be a very engaging guest and offer just kind of a unique perspective. But we chatted a little bit offline. I said, you know what, this is very unscripted. So I just want to just really get her ideas and thoughts in the space in general. But before we get rolling, Amy, tell the audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name's Amy. I'm the founder of Aligned Tribe, and I run an in-demand coach program which helps people to really transition their careers from their corporate life into starting their own coaching or consulting business, and primarily use that through LinkedIn marketing strategies as well. I am your typical millennial, and so I've had a wide variety of experiences in my own career as well, and through business as well. And I've worked, across the UK, across Australia, and across Canada as well, in various different consulting roles in the HR space, business development space, and a wide variety of things. So yeah, thanks for having me.
It's a very well-rounded background. And Amy, so right off the bat, so when you hear the word sustainability, what comes to mind?
I think of the future. And I think sort of future-proofing things as well. One of the things that I think we're more conscious of it now, and sort of living in a sustainable way, because I think sometimes we, on a broader sort of macro level, can see kind of the impacts that our behaviors have and the way that we consume things and everything as well. So I think about the future, and I think about future generations as well.
So it's really interesting. I know that your background is heavily in the HR business space, but you start off with economics. I mean, what a great way to kind of launch this, but on a broader scale. So when you think of, I think you used the word future proofing. So what does that mean even outside of the business space? What does it mean on a broader societal scale or, economic scale for countries out there?
Yeah, I think maybe this is coming from my millennial lens, Kevin, but, we kind of have that lens that does look about, corporate sustainability as well. I think, from a lot of the work that I've done in the past with millennials in the workplace and Generation Z coming through the workplace as well, they tend to align themselves with companies that have some level of corporate sustainable responsibility. And so I just think that it is looking about beyond you as the individual, and also what you do as an individual and how that kind of impacts the people around you, your environment, and everything, globally in the world, if you want to take it up to that macro level.
Yeah, for sure. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the intersection between, business and doing good for society as well, kind of the intersection. And then I kind of want to get into kind of the personal side of things a little later, but from a business coaching standpoint, when you talk to clients, is this kind of like the third, bottom line that you're looking at, or the fourth bottom line?
Yeah, well, I think, with millennials, they're set to be 75% of the workplace by 2025, which is only around the corner. And that was a study done by Deloitte. And what they found is that, through the interview process, when they're looking at attracting their future leaders and attracting people in the workplace to stick around for the long haul, this was a consideration and this was a factor. Flexibility came sort of up on top. I think we've all got, especially over the last couple of years, everyone has started to look and work more flexibly. But corporate responsibility and corporate sustainability, there's typically a low level of trust in the millennial generation when it comes to organizations doing good. And so a lot of millennials do have this sort of, I guess, bugbear around corporates just being in it for the profits and for the money and not thinking beyond that. But a really good example is there's a company that's actually called Who Gives a Crap? And pardon the language there, but they actually make sustainable and recyclable toilet paper. And one of the things that they do is they have a give back measure that they hit every single year. And so they donate and they help, people to actually get facilities around the world. And so their staff and their employees actually have targets towards that. And that's one of the key motivators for their staff and for their people. And so it's looking beyond the profits, and it's actually looking about, okay, what is the bigger impact here?
On a broader scale, the UN's been in the news a lot about, sustainability and their goals around that. So how much do you think that the UN sustainability goals and development goals drive like the millennial perspective or mindset?
Yeah, I think it's one of the considerations. It's probably not everything. I think everyone sort of comes at things from a self lens first. We kind of think about serving our own needs. We think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs. Yeah. We're kind of looking to get through those ladders and those hoops first naturally as humans. But then I think looking beyond that, I don't know any sort of, studies around this, or I don't have any sort of data that supports this, but when you look at it, from a company level, and you look at what the companies are actually doing in response to that, then I think that's a way that people can sort of tangibly hold on to that and look at some of the bigger trends that are happening around the world.
So when you're coaching one of your clients and you're talking about these things, and they're just kind of getting started and trying to kind of form their company culture and their strategies and that type of thing, how do you coach them through this to say, your clients, they care about these things, that your potential clients, the market out there cares about these things. How would you coach them through that process?
Yeah, it is really looking at it from that customer-centric lens, and really looking at it from, outside, just within the walls of the company, what's actually going on. And particularly from a marketing sort of trend point of view as well, there's sort of like a strategy element there where, companies do kind of ride on the coattails of some of these trends. But if it's not authentic and if it's not actually genuine within the values of that organization, they get found out pretty quickly. Yeah. So I think it has to be really values aligned first and foremost about how you're going to set the company culture, what are the actual values of the company. And then it's looking about, okay, well, what are the macro things? What are the sustainability projects that are actually aligned with that, and something that they're truly passionate with and motivated about sticking with as well? Because I think that consistency when it comes from a branding point of view and making sure that it actually makes sense for the business brand, it doesn't feel incongruent or it doesn't feel contrived. That's a big part of it as well.
I've got a personal example that came to mind when you were talking about, companies are found out pretty quickly if it's just kind of a ruse type thing. But so when my oldest child, we were kind of doing the university tour and, to see where she would go to university in the States. And we had just actually moved back to the States. We hadn't moved back yet. We were still living in Western Europe. And we were at a university and I asked them, I said, so give me an idea of kind of the international flavor of the school. And they said, "Oh, we are very international. We have a Romanian math teacher, and we have 2 cleaning crew from Honduras or something like that." And I was like, it was almost laughable, just the different perspectives of, what does it mean to be diverse, or, that type of thing. And so I know that there are so many things that come into play when you look at companies that care, so what are some of the major factors that you think companies are judged on in this space?
Yeah, well, one of the interesting things is that I feel like when companies put themselves out there to say that they're backing a cause, or to say that they're more sustainable, or to have a real sort of big mission and big vision of what they want to do beyond just the company interests, they're actually held to a higher account than a lot of other companies are. So if you're a company and you're saying, we're donating $5 million a year to this particular cause, you better do it. Really, it's common sense, but your customers are watching, your clients are watching, and they want to know that the reason that they're investing their money with you is that, you know, you actually follow through with what you say you're going to do. And so I think they are really held to a higher account, and there's a level of transparency that comes into this as well. And so the example that I shared with you before, you know, the founder Simon was talking about how he has very, very transferable and transparent metrics around what donations are happening every single month, every single year, where the funds are going. And so customers are exposed to that, and they can actually see that, you know, when they spend money with that company, they can track exactly where it goes, and it all kind of makes sense. And so I think that, yeah, they are held to a much higher account, and there's a lot of pressure that is put on some organizations because they do make that stand.
So how does a company determine what matters? Like, does it matter to millennials, or any market size, or any market we're talking about, Gen Z, Gen X, whatever? Does it matter that a company is doing, or does it just matter that they're doing something?
Yeah, I think it goes back to the values and what makes sense for that company as well. I think it is something that, you know, if you have maybe the majority of your staff or your employees that you're actually really passionate about, maybe it's doing like a survey with some of your employees and talking about, okay, well, what are the areas that they're truly passionate about? And the same can be for your customer base as well. So it might be sort of aligning it with being actually told from either inside or outside of the organization where it sort of carries the most amount of weight, what is the most amount of interest for a particular sort of area where they can focus. So it doesn't feel like it's just sort of plucked out from the air. It's actually more meaningful because it came from some data.
It's not just a random marketing ploy that they're saying, okay, we're doing something, so you should care. But
exactly.
So now we're going to pull back the curtain, and we're going to drill down a little bit. We're going to jump into Amy's flat here. This is Amy's lifestyle. So tell me from your perspective, what matters in this space, and how has that kind of affected how you live personally?
Yeah, I'm a pretty conservative in nature anyway. When it comes to living, I'm not a super materialistic kind of girl. And so I live I think a pretty down to earth, cruisy life. And I think one of the things that I really learned through, you know, this whole COVID experience the last couple of years is that, you know, you really just want to make your home feel really good. I think that's something that's really important to me, is having a home base. You know, I work 100% remotely with all my clients around the world. And so I want to know that when I'm home, it feels really good. But it doesn't mean, you know, filling up your home with anything that's in excess. So it's for me, it's more around just being sort of down to earth and not being really sort of frivolous or over the top with anything when it comes to like energy or sustainability or just sort of consumerism. Essentially, you know, I'm kind of have what I need, and I don't need much more than that.
So have you thought about, like, what does it look like kind of down the road? Thought about, say, solar energy, thought about maybe an EV, electric vehicle, or something like that, or, you know, public transportation? What are some of the things that you specifically that you have thought about or have kind of adopted as a lifestyle?
Yeah, my partner jokes all the time that he can't wait to get a Prius. He's always looking at, you know, he's very much into the technology space, and he's very much into, you know, cryptocurrencies and all those sorts of things as well, which I think is absolutely incredible when you look at that space. So I'm very much about, you know, forward thinking and thinking about, okay, what is down the line that we're going to need. So I'm very open-minded when it comes to, electric car, let's get one, like, let's do it. You know, there's all these sorts of things that I think that on an individual level you can contribute to, and you can start to just think, it doesn't have to be all at once, but you can start to actually sort of think, okay, well, the car is one thing, you know, what can we upgrade here that's going to help, or what can we upgrade when it comes to the house? So yeah, definitely on that path. And I think it's going to be easier to adopt over time as well. It's kind of like, you know, when the internet first came out, Kevin, and everyone was like, what is this thing? And then now it's a part of everyday life, and it's not even a thought. So I think that's the same with sustainability. You know, people sort of catch on to it a little bit later perhaps, but it's something that I just think will be a natural part of everyday life.
See, it's funny. You told that story vicariously. I actually lived that. What is it like? What was it like pre-internet? So that was the difference in where we are. But Yeah, I think it's exactly right. I've mentioned this on other podcasts, that idea that says, nobody wakes up in the world and says, or in the morning now and says, hey, I think I'm just going to go litter. I'm just going to go
Yeah.
throw rubbish around, or I'm going to waste something, or I'm going to, that type of thing. So I think there has been kind of a global shift, in a good way here. But I also think that right now you got to say, hey, what does it mean for me individually? Because the only way that we're going to move the needle is if all of us do a little bit, if all of us do our part. So if you were coaching people, like, just personally, even from a business standpoint, so what's just some easy first steps to take?
Yeah, I just think from looking at your own individual level, it's thinking about like, okay, what really aligns on a values-based level as well. And thinking about, okay, what is, even when we think about business and exercise that I do with a lot of people is sort of tracking their time to see where their time is actually spent through their day. And so it could be things like as well, like they've driven to the grocery store a few times a day, or a couple, a few times in a couple of days. And you think, okay, well, could you not just do one big trip and get it done? Or,
Yep.
Is there a way that you could use delivery services, or, all these sorts of things, right? Where you just start to think about you as an individual and what are your behaviors and what are your activities. And the first step is really just kind of looking about both from a business point of view and like leveraging your time so
Right.
that you have more time to spend on your business, but also leveraging your energy and being more sustainable in the way that you operate through the week as well.
I mean, that the last statement you just mentioned is kind of broadening the whole idea around sustainability. It really is, is your lifestyle sustainable? Is your, the pattern, your habits, the strategies that you try to put in place, both the life strategy and a business strategy, are they sustainable, in the long term? So I mean, I love the way you kind of wrap that up. So.
Yeah, I think burnout has been a big issue for a lot of business owners and people in their careers over the last couple of years as well. And so I think there has been this huge, big realization that you can't do it all sometimes. And so it is really around looking at, okay, well, how do we sort of embed that kind of structure that allows you to get what you need to have done, but also gives you that space, away from your business or your career or whatever it is for you, that allows you to essentially breathe and feel like a human again.
Yeah, no, Dan, it's funny. That's kind of a metaphor of life, and metaphor of just, what does it look like with the planet moving forward? I mean, this whole idea of burnout is what a great kind of word picture that you just painted there. But Amy, just really appreciate you taking time just chatting with us today, and let's kind of look behind the curtain in your life and just the things that matter to you. Is there anything you just want to wrap us up with today, and just maybe tell people where the best place to find you online?
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Kevin. This has been a really good, thought-provoking conversation as well. And I think I definitely is the future. I mean, I don't think we're going back from here. I think it's going to accelerate even further. So I do think that now is the time to really start to think about, from an individual level and a company level, how are you being more sustainable? Because it's only going to accelerate from here with technologies that are popping up all the time. So this has been a really great conversation for that. Thank you. For those that are looking to connect and wanting to find out a little bit more, they can head to my website, which is amylsmith.com. You'll also find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube. I'm pretty well on the social medias. So you can come and find me there.
Amy, thank you again for just taking time and just really just sharing your thoughts behind this, the whole idea behind, renewable energy and just the lifestyles around that. And Amy, we appreciate you taking time today. Have a great day.
Thanks, Kevin.